So students, today we'll begin with the second approach. As I've told you, there are two approaches to determine the equilibrium, the macroeconomic equilibrium income and output. First was your aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach, and the second approach is your savings and investment approach. First of all, we should know that why two approaches can be used, or you will see that these two approaches are not that much different. Okay, it is a simple mathematical thing. That is why these two approaches are used. We all know that at the equilibrium level our aggregate demand is equals to our aggregate supply. We all know that this is the macroeconomic equilibrium. An economy as a whole will be at the equilibrium when the aggregate supply is equals to its aggregate demand. Now we know, since it is a simple Keynesian model, we have assumed that it is a closed economy and there are only two sectors in the economy, that is the household and the business sector, and they incur consumption expenditure and investment expenditure respectively. Thus the two components of aggregate demand are only consumption and investment. Okay, the only two components remain, consumption and investment. And what are the components of aggregate supply? I have told you all, aggregate supply is nothing but the value of all goods and services produced in a year within the country. Okay, so it is nothing but the national income of the country, that is the Y as denoted by Keynes. And according to Keynes, this national income or the particular income, it can be divided into two parts only. Either it will be consumed or it will be saved. That means this identity, this first equation that I have written, when I'll expand this equation, I have expanded this equation over here. That means I have written the components of the first equation in the second equation. So that means we can also write it as that our consumption plus investment expenditure must be equals to consumption plus savings. Okay, since it is a mathematical rule, on the equals to sign or on the either sides of equals to signs, if there is any common variable, okay, if there is any common variable, then it gets cancelled. We cancel the common variables on the either sides of the equals to. What are the common variables? C, you can see C is also over here on the right hand side, left hand side, C is there, and right hand side also C is there. So we will cancel the common variable, that is the C, and what is remained, that is your investment and saving. So this is how that we derive to the conclusion that both the things are equal. Okay, both the things are equal. Like this we derive our third equation. Both the things are synonymous or equal to each other. Whether aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, this is also the equilibrium point of the macroeconomy. Whether your saving is equal to investment, this is also your equilibrium point in an economy. So whether we discuss it with the help of ADAS approach, which becomes the first approach, or we discuss it with the help of saving and investment approach, which becomes the second approach. The ADAS approach we have already done. So with the help of this equation, you can see at the point where the aggregate demand and aggregate supply is equal to each other, at that point my saving and investment will also be equal to each other. Okay, so hence what is proved over here? Hence proved that at equilibrium point, my aggregate demand and aggregate supply both are equal, and my savings and investments both are equal. So whether we talk in this sense or this sense, बोथ आर सेम। सो इस पॉइंट पे जो हम लोग डायग्राम पे कल ई पॉइंट दिखाया था एडीएस के ई पॉइंट पे, वहां पे हमारी सेविंग इन्वेस्टमेंट भी इक्वल रहेगी। ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज द थिंग दैट वी हैव प्रूव्ड, एंड द डायग्रामेटिक